The following are diary entries released to the public by the New Jersey State Police. Warning: some of the content here may be disturbing for some. December 6th, 2018. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. Shit, man, I'm freezing my ass off. I'm tired and it's cold, and I'm tired of smelling pine. All the food I packed is gonna run out at some point. I give it a couple of weeks, but maybe less. It seems like I get hungrier as the days go by, feeling like my stomach's eating itself alive. My dad told me to turn myself in, and I probably should have listened to him. No, I definitely should have listened to him. What the heck am I even doing out here? It's weird being alone for this long. I haven't seen another human face up close in 5 days now, since this past Saturday. I don't even know what I'm running from. I'm not that smart, and the police are gonna close in on me and catch me once I run out of food and have to leave these gosh dang pine barrens. December 7th, 2018. It's hard to write when you feel like you could lose your damn fingers. I had to wait to warm them up by the fire and then put my gloves on. But anyways, it was another cold and lonely day in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. I slept a little bit better last night than I did the previous few nights. I've stopped worrying that I'm gonna wake up seeing flashlights and blue lights, and hearing barking dogs and cops going, "Hands up! Put your hands up! Out of the tent!" In fact, I would probably welcome it at this point. Either that or hightail it. I'm not too sure. Depends on how ballsy I'm feeling. It's much colder at night, and so I figured out how to not get out of my sleeping bag when I needed to piss. I have a well-marked, and believe me, I mean well-marked, piss bottle that I just stick my dong into when I wake up feeling like a fire hose. It's much more convenient. Nothing is worse than crawling out of your tent in the dead of a 20-degree night to watch steam rise up off your pee stream. I'm on the move during the day, and sometimes I get these heart murmurs and I gotta stop. My breathing gets all shallow. I don't know if it's a panic attack. Never had them before, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm getting them now. The loneliness is super weird at this point. It's now been almost a full week since I've seen a human face. Not to mention that the last human faces I saw had a lot of fear and anger and probably contempt. December 8, 2018. Debbie. My dad always told me she was no good for me. Always told me that I would get myself into trouble over her, but I never listened. Holy shit, he was right. I should have dumped her right then and there after that first time. Right after the first time she slept around with some other guy. I should have cut it off clean and found someone better. But no one's better than Debbie. That's what I told myself. She was gorgeous, that's for sure. That short blonde hair that was totally evened out at the bottom. Tan skin. I never understood how a Jersey girl could be that tan, but she was. She was perfect. I remember the first time I knew something was up. She was laying in bed, texting on her phone at 11 p.m. I mean, shit, what else could that be about? And when I walked in and asked her who she was texting, all I would hear was the clap of a phone shutting and then her saying, "No one." I got it out of her though. It was our spin class instructor. God, that guy was a douchebag too. His name was Jimmy, and she had been texting him at all hours of the night. A bunch of flirty stuff, but nothing too crazy. No dirty talking. A bunch of, "You're so funny," and "Oh, I love the Beatles too." That kind of stuff. But I swear, they banged. They banged like rabbits. That douchebag Jimmy. In tip-top shape and probably an animal in the sack. He probably broke her in half like I never could. She would tell me they never did anything or even said anything, but I swear those two got it in. But I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and we put it behind us after I kindly told Jimmy to go screw himself and stop texting my girl. He acted like a baby around me from there on out. Little Weasley-ass pricks tend to do that. Debbie and I had a couple of good months after that, That whole Jimmy situation was in August. October was when things started getting fishy again. I want to keep writing this stuff out, but I can barely keep my eyes open. If I don't get arrested or freeze to death, or get eaten by the Jersey Devil, then I'll continue this train of thought tomorrow. December 9th, 2018. Fever dream. I'm standing on an infinite frozen lake. A bunch of people I know, my father, Debbie, my brothers, they're all frozen in the ice under my feet. I'm not a superstitious guy, but I can't help but feel that this whole thing with Debbie was fate. Shit fate. The writing was on the wall from the beginning, and I didn't listen. It's too late now. I should have gotten out when I had the chance. I'm about to write down what happened, and I'm gonna be real precise with my words. I want the truth to be there when, and if, probably when, they arrest me and put me on trial. Maybe after reading this testimony and then hearing it from my own lips, the judge might not throw the book at me. Debbie and I started going to this bar back in October. There was this bartender there named Mitch. He was a cool guy. He was there a couple of times when we were out drinking, and sometimes he would give us a free round of drinks. I was like, wow, what a nice guy. I didn't think anything of it. God, how freaking stupid can you get? Of course he was hitting on my girl. Looking back on it, I can't believe how naive I was. Well, one night this past November, Debbie and I got into a fight. This was a bad one. Real nasty with cutting remarks and whatnot. She told me that she had been seeing Mitch, the bartender. She had been over to that bar for lunch a couple of times and hit it off with him, and had gone out with him several times while I was at work. I threw a fit and, after punching a nice hole in the wall, packed some clothes and stormed out and spent the night at a motel. I spent the rest of the week at a friend's house. I should have just been done with Debbie right there, but I kept blowing up her phone. It would go from apologies for losing my temper, to asking if we could talk, to flipping out in long, profane paragraphs, where I would swear up and down at her for not answering the phone. The saddest part was that not once did she text back. I was having a profane conversation with myself. Gosh dang, if that's not the saddest thing in the world, I don't know what is. Well, my friend, Morgan, the one that I was staying with, convinced me to go grab my stuff out of the apartment and to dump her ass. I agreed, though I would have been back 2 weeks later to profess my love and tell her how I wasn't going to give up on us. And I headed over there that night. I went in and she was in bed. Our bed with him. I saw red. I wanted to kill him, but I didn't. I had my handgun on me, legally. The lawyers can draw up my concealed carry license for any judges who might be reading this. I wanted to shoot the guy, but I did not do it. Mitch and I started arguing. He got out of my bed, still in his underwear, and started threatening me, telling me that I needed to leave. Now keep in mind, this is my apartment. I wasn't going anywhere. Well, Mitch didn't like this. Next thing I know, he grabs a knife out of the kitchen block and threatens me with it. I pull out my handgun and I point it at him, and I tell him to get the heck out of my place. But Mitch apparently isn't the sharpest tool in the box, because he comes at me with a knife. I fire off a shot. Bang, it goes through his shoulder, I think, and he kind of closes the gap between us. He sticks me with the knife somewhere in my arm. It hurt like a bitch. I shoot him again. This time, it goes through his midsection. And now we're wrestling over the gun. And that's when Debbie got involved. I fired off another shot, and this one goes right through Mitch's face. Next thing I know, Mitch goes limp and Debbie falls to the floor. It's all a blur now, but I remember she had a bullet wound in her throat. I called 911 and then I hightailed it out of there. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I was terrified. So, if a judge is reading this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I fled the apartment. I'm sorry I got stitched up at my friend's house and not a hospital. And I'm sorry I fled the next morning when I saw my name labeled as armed and dangerous on the news. The news reported that Debbie was actually alive. She was in the hospital and the doctors had saved her. I cried tears of joy when I saw it. After all of it, I still loved her, even though I also hated her, if that makes any kind of sense. My dad calls and he says, "Son, they've got you on the news." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Dad." And he says, "You need to turn yourself in. We'll figure this all out." I got off the phone with him and I knew he was right. But I was terrified. I was so scared of the outcome of the trial. So scared of the possibility of doing time in prison. So I fled. I know I've made it worse for myself now. It was a snap judgment, and again, if a judge is reading this, I'm sorry. But now I'm deep in these gosh dang woods and I don't know if I would even be able to find my way out if I tried. December 10th, 2018. Fever's gone. I feel better. I've been boiling snow to consider my water supply. I remember playing in the snow as a kid, and now I'm boiling it and drinking it to survive. If that doesn't tell you how times have changed, I don't know what does. I woke up to some weird noises last night. It was a cackling noise, kind of like the sounds of tropical birds at the zoo. I know we have sandhill cranes in New Jersey, but do they stick around here in the winter? I don't know. I'm no expert, and I'm just some construction worker and soon-to-be prison inmate. December 12th, 2018. Tent's gone. I think some hermits might have stolen it while I was off fishing. It's my fault for leaving it, I guess. Screw me for wanting to eat fresh fish tonight. And now I sleep in my sleeping bag with a snow patch around me to conserve some type of warmth. But I'm freezing my ass off at night. It's hard to stay asleep and even harder to go into a deep sleep. I'm constantly in this state of half sleep. On the bright side, I don't have any more weird dreams. December 13th, 2018. It's really late and I don't know if I'll be able to sleep, and so instead I write. I'm also laying inside an abandoned cabin right now. I was walking through the forest, trudging through the knee-high snow, and it started sleeting. Sleet is the frickin' worst. It'll get you soaked before you know it. I don't have my tent and I really started wishing hell on the people that stole it, even though they need it just as much as I do. I was soaked and freezing and I had slush all on my shoes and on my ankles. My ankles hurt like hell, all blistered and frozen, even though I got on wool socks. I trudged on through the woods. I went up this hill and I saw something through the trees. A big dark shadow looming over the woods. I went toward it and it's this big cabin. 2 floors, real run down and old. It must be hundreds of years old. It looks like some house from the 1700s, like the witch's cabin from the Hansel and Gretel story. Needless to say, I was spooked, but I was also soaked and freezing cold, and on the verge of losing my face to the frigid wind. So I went inside. It was pitch dark and I shined my flashlight into the place. The first room was the living area. There was trash and pieces of wood everywhere, a brick fireplace at the back, a mantel above it. I could imagine a black cauldron hanging over the fire where people used to make stew, or something. I explored the rest of the place, even though I was tired. I wasn't going to feel safe until I checked out the whole cabin. I wanted to make sure that no one else was here. The last thing I need now are more hermits mugging me and taking my stuff. The stairs were real creaky and I felt like my foot would go through one at any second. I explored the upstairs. On the left, when you first go up, there's a bedroom that was definitely a nursery. There is old pieces of a crib on the ground and little rag dolls on the floor, mangled and worn beyond recognition. When you exit that bedroom and keep going down the hall, there's a painting on the wall. An old 18th century thing, I think. kind of worn but still recognizable. It's a painting of a family of 3. Mom, Dad, and a little boy. The dad's face is worn away. It looks like somebody, maybe the mom, had scratched it out. Maybe she went through something similar to me. You never know. The rest of the upstairs is just this empty shell of splintery wood and debris and whatnot. No one was here, so I felt a little bit safer, I guess. When I went back downstairs, I took a wrong turn. It was super dark in here, and ended up at the end of this long dark hallway. The hallway is made of solid brick and it's maybe 50 feet long. At the end of the hall is this big wooden door. Now, it's probably a wine cellar or something, but I got this eerie feeling when I stood there and I didn't want to be there any longer. So I turned the other way and I went back into the living area. I'm hunkered down in the living room now, and even though it's creepy in here, it's warmer at least, and dry. I doubt I'll sleep well at all tonight, but maybe I'll get used to the place by tomorrow or the day after, and then I'll be able to have a deep sleep. That would be great right about now. December 16th, 2018. Up is down, pleasure is pain, darkness is light, slavery is freedom, madness is sanity, insanity is madness. December 17th, 2018. I have no recollection of writing yesterday's entry, and I think I know why. This cabin turned out to be more sinister than I thought. My handwriting sucks, I know. Hopefully someone transcribes this if it has found its way into your hands. I was hunkered down a couple nights ago, curled up in my sleeping bag on the floor of this cabin. The night was real quiet, save for some whistling wind here and there. The quiet night made it really easy to hear anything outside, and I did hear something. The first thing I hear are dogs barking. At first I'm like, hell, are those wolves? It's a bunch of rabid barking, so I know there were multiple of them. I peek outside and sure enough, I see multiple dogs on leashes. 3 of them. Behind each dog is someone with a flashlight. The next thing I hear out of one of their mouths is, "Let's check that cabin." And so I'm like, shit, I need to hide. Either hide or run. And then I remember the dark hallway. I wonder if there's a place to go beyond that door. It's worth a shot. The rest of the cabin is barren, nowhere to hide behind or to crawl into. I grabbed my sleeping bag in my backpack. I didn't want him to see it to know that somebody was there, and I went to the back of the cabin. I came to the long, dark corridor and I shined my light. I saw the wooden door at the end. The dog's barking was getting closer, so I just went for it. I went through the hall and I grabbed the cold metal knob on the wood door. I opened it and I almost busted my ass. There was this long flight of stairs leading downward, and I almost fell down them. I left the door open a crack so it wouldn't make a noise. I was sure those guys were in the cabin now, and I descended the stairs. The stairs were made of stone, which seemed pretty sophisticated for some schmuck's cabin in the woods. There were probably 20 stairs in total. I got to the bottom and was in the cellar. The cellar was pretty open, except for the small corridor that wound around the staircase, snaking behind it. It was musty and pitch dark, and there was a constant dripping noise from melted snow seeping through the ceiling, somewhere in the back corner. I hunkered down and I listened to the sounds of dog paws scratching the floor above me, as well as methodical footsteps. I could hear murmuring, but I couldn't make out what the dudes were saying. Minutes passed and I started to hear more footsteps, but these ones didn't come from the floor above. These footsteps and light shuffles came from right down here in the cellar that I was hiding in. I froze and I shut off my flashlight. Pitch black. My only useful sense left was my hearing. I listened close and was positive I heard footsteps from just around the corner, behind the staircase. I crouched in the corner, shaking like a scared dog, as the footsteps shuffled and dragged real slow across the concrete floor. And then they made their way around the staircase. I took out my handgun and I cocked it, and the footsteps halted. "Leave or I'll freaking shoot," I say. No response. "I'm dead serious. Leave now or I'll shoot you dead." More silence. The footsteps continue. They get closer and I'm about ready to fire off a shot. But then they start going up the stairs. I can tell the distinct sound each foot makes when it hits the stone step. They ascend all the way up the stairs and I hear the wooden door open and close. About a half minute, maybe less, passes, and I hear some muffled shouting from the people upstairs. And then I hear muffled shots going off. The dogs are going nuts. And then, everything just goes silent. The silence was so intense that my ears rang like 1,000 alarm bells were going off inside my eardrums. There's a footfall upstairs. Another and another. And I know the feet. Whomever they belong to, they're heading back towards this other door. I get up and I head for the stairs. I ascend all the way to the door and aim my gun and I wait. A couple long minutes go by. I hold my handgun tight. My hand is shaking. I try to steady it. No dice. But once the door opens, I figure it'll be point blank range. The footsteps are coming back down the hall now. I tighten my grip on the handgun, both hands. I bite my tongue so hard that it starts bleeding, but I don't notice till a few seconds later. Whoever's behind that door is close now. I could shoot through the door, but I'm more comfortable with a direct shot. The door opens. I empty the clip. It's just a chaotic barrage of gunshots going off and blinding muzzle flares. I didn't even see who or what I'm shooting at. My clip's empty, signified by a click 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 and the ping of shells bouncing off at the stone steps. Whoever I just shot the hell out of is still standing right there in front of me. Before I can reload my gun, it knocks me over and I roll down the steps, all the way to the bottom. I drop my gun and I have no idea where it is. The wind's knocked out of me. I start crawling across the floor and over to the wall. I shine my flashlight at the steps. The thing that I shot at is on its way down. The footsteps are slow, but they're steady. It steps into the light. At first, it looked like a man. It was about average height and it wore a black suit. The rest of it did not look like a man, at least not a regular one. The head looked like a burn victim, charred and red in skin. The teeth were rotted and jagged. It wore a Mr. Hyde-style top hat on its head. And those eyes, beady and yellow in the glow of my flashlight. The thing stood there for a long moment. I just sat there with my back to the wall, shining my light on it and making empty threats. "Don't come near me, man. I'll freaking kill you." The second I shot at it, the thing dropped to all fours and crawled towards me in a really unnatural manner, like a crippled animal. I was totally helpless and just started screaming and shouting and begging for mercy. The thing crawled right up to me, placed its claw on my stomach, and looked deep into my eyes as it began to push down. My screams and shouts became blood-curdlingly loud and shrill. The thing let out a shrill shriek of its own. All I remember happening next was it sort of melting into my stomach. I think it went through my belly button. I conked out and I woke up this morning, back in the living room. Now I know what you're thinking. All a dream, right? Well, that's what I thought too. That is until I saw the dead cops and their dogs' carcasses. I freaked out. I ran out to the woods and I threw up. My puke was like black tar. I didn't want to go back into that cabin, but I had to. I had to get my stuff. I decided that I would brave the cold. Better than staying in that dang place. Not one more night. Not in my life. December 18th, 2018. I'm not feeling quite myself anymore. All I can think is, kill Debbie. I've been hearing this voice ever since that thing crawled inside of me. I know it's that thing 100%. It's what they call the Jersey Devil. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know the job's not finished. I know Debbie's probably still in that hospital. Blythe Forest Medical Center. I know that, thanks to the news. And I know she'll be having a visitor tonight.